welcome back to the deep dive. If you're someone who wants to get straight to the core of complex subjects, really get it without sifting through endless pages, then you're in the right place. You're the learner we aim for.
And today we have something pretty intense. We're diving into the U.S. Marine Corps Field Manual on close combat, MCRP 302B for those keeping score.
Yeah, and this isn't just like a few fighting tips. We look through it, and it's incredibly comprehensive.
Oh, absolutely. It covers everything. I mean, from basic stances, how to move, all the way to dealing with weapons, ground fighting, armed, unarmed, the whole spectrum.
So our mission today is to pull out the most crucial insights, maybe even the surprising ones. This isn't just about how to fight.
No, not at all. It's really about understanding the principles behind it. Things like control, gaining an edge, adapting when things go sideways. High pressure stuff.
Which, interestingly, might have applications beyond actual combat, right?
Definitely. Principles like leverage, reading a situation, adapting under pressure, those pop up in all sorts of places. But okay, first things first.
Right. The manual kicks off with this concept called the Continuum of Force.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly is that?
Think of it as a ladder of responses, a framework. It dictates the level of force a Marine should use based on how someone is behaving or resisting. It starts low with just words and can escalate all the way up.
To deadly force.
To deadly force, yes. But the key is proportionality. The response has to match the threat or resistance level.
So it's not like 0 to 100 instantly. There are steps.
Exactly. 5 levels defined in the manual. Level 1, compliant. The person does what they're told. Easy. Close combat isn't even on the table.
Okay.
Level 2 is resistant, passive. Maybe they argue or drag their feet, but they'll go along with basic physical guidance, maybe a simple escort hold. Again, no real close combat techniques needed.
All right, so levels 1 and 2 are pretty low-key. When does close combat actually come into play?
Level 3, that's resistant, active. Now the person is physically resisting commands, pulling away, maybe trying to escape.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where the manual says you start using specific compliance techniques. Things like come-along holds, pain compliance through joint manipulation, or pressure points.
Pressure points, right.
Yeah.
And it mentioned soft-handed stunning blows. What's that about?
Yeah, it sounds a bit gentle, doesn't it? But it seems to mean techniques aimed at maybe momentarily disorienting or stunning someone to gain control rather than causing lasting injury right away.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's level 3. What's level 4?
Level 4 is assaultive bodily harm. Now, the subject is actively attacking the Marine, but maybe without a deadly weapon. Punches, kicks, that sort of thing.
So the response ramps up.
Definitely. The manual calls for defensive tactics. We're talking blocks, strikes, kicks, more forceful techniques. Also, enhanced pain compliance, and maybe using a nightstick if available.
And the final level, level 5.
Level 5 is assaultive. Serious bodily harm death. This is the big one. The subject is likely armed or attacking in a way that could cause severe injury or kill someone.
And the response is deadly force.
Primarily, yes, often with a firearm. But the manual is clear. Even at this level, close combat techniques, both armed and unarmed, might still be necessary depending on the exact situation. Weapon retention, things like that.
So the actual hand-to-hand stuff we think of, that's mostly happening in levels 3, 4, and sometimes 5. It's a structured escalation.
Exactly. Measured response based on the situation. That's the core idea of the continuum.
Okay, moving on. The manual then lays out these fundamental Marine Corps tactical concepts. These aren't specific moves, more like guiding principles.
Spot on. They're the ideas that should underpin everything a Marine does in close combat. The first one is achieving a decision.
Meaning?
Meaning you need a clear goal. Am I trying to restrain this person, defend myself? Whatever it is, you need that purpose, and then you act decisively. Hesitation, the manual warns, wastes energy and can get people hurt.
Makes sense. Indecision is dangerous. What's next?
Gaining an advantage. This is really interesting. It talks about using the opponent's own strength and momentum against them. Classic martial arts stuff, right?
Yeah, like leverage.
Exactly. Exploit any advantage you have. Maybe it's a weapon, maybe it's a technique you know well, or maybe it's just surprise. Deception, stealth, ambiguity, anything to get an edge.
Surprise can throw anyone off their game.
Yeah.
How about speed?
That's the next concept, speed. But it's not just about moving fast. It's linked to what they call violence of action.
Violence of action.
Yeah, it means a sudden, overwhelming application of force. Hit hard, hit fast, seize the initiative so the opponent can't even react properly. This kind of speed comes from knowing the basics inside and out, instinctively.
So you drill the fundamentals until they're automatic.
Precisely. Which leads nicely into the next concept, adapting.
Because things rarely go perfectly to plan.
Never. Close combat is messy, chaotic. The manual calls it friction, uncertainty, disorder. You have to be able to adapt on the fly. They even give an example of crowd control, where you might shift between different force levels and techniques second by second.
So mental flexibility is just as important as physical skill.
Absolutely critical. And the last concept.
Exploiting success.
Right. Don't get complacent. Just because you landed a hit or gained some ground doesn't mean it's over. The idea is to press that advantage aggressively, ruthlessly, until the threat is completely neutralized. No letting up.
Don't just win the exchange, win the fight. Okay, now we're getting into the real specifics, the fundamentals of close combat. The manual mentions it's written for right-handers, but it's reversible.
Yeah, they just use a right-handed stance as the default to explain things clearly, but they stress everything works just as well mirrored for a lefty. And these fundamentals, they are the foundation. Life-saving stuff.
Let's start with the ranges of close combat. It's not just one thing.
No, it's more nuanced. They break it down. Long range, that's where you might use things like rifles with bayonets, maybe sticks, and trenching tools, keeping some distance.
Okay.
Then there's mid-range, which is kind of a blurry transitional zone. And finally, close range. That's your hand-to-hand, your knives, edged weapons, up close and personal.
And you can move between these ranges really quickly in a real situation.
Instantly. The manual emphasizes how fluid it is. You might start further out and close distance rapidly, or vice versa, dynamic.
All right. Now this part was fascinating. Weapons of the body. It goes way beyond fists, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, way beyond. They detail using the head, forehead, top, back, the hands, obviously fist, backhand, but also the edge of the hand, the knife edge, they call it, specifically for soft tissue.
Knife edge. Wow.
Palms for striking, blocking, parrying, even fingers for gouging, tearing soft spots like eyes, throat, groin.
Intense. What about arms and legs?
Forearms are big, great for blocking, obviously, but also for striking joints and limbs. Apparently less risk of hurting yourself than punching sometimes. Elbows, huge power, especially if you bend at the waist.
Generating force.
Exactly. And then knees for close-in strikes and feet for kicking, but also stomping. It's really looking at the whole body as a potential weapon.
Okay, so if the whole body's a weapon, where do you aim? Target areas of the body.
Right. They break it down: head, neck, torso, groin, extremities, and they get specific. Head. Eyes soft, unprotected, cause an instant flinch. Temples fragile, potentially lethal. Nose sensitive, easy to break, makes eyes water, though you can apparently train to take a hit there better.
Train your nose?
Ears rupture eardrums with enough force. Jaw can cause unconsciousness, but you risk breaking your hand if you hit it wrong without, say, holding something.
The anatomical detail is pretty stark. What about the neck?
Very vulnerable, throat soft tissue, swelling can block the airway, fatal. Carotid sinus site of neck below the jaw. Hit that, you can restrict blood flow, cause unconsciousness, maybe death. And the back of the neck, the cervical vertebrae, spinal cord. Because the head's heavy and the muscles aren't huge, damage there can cause paralysis or death.
Okay, moving down to the torso.
Clavicle, the collarbone. Break that, the arm on that side is pretty much useless. Solar plexus, center chest. Hit that hard, knocks the wind out, temporary paralysis. Ribs, painful, restrict breathing, potential internal damage if broken. Kidneys, lower back, very painful, can cause permanent damage, even death.
And the groin.
Yeah.
Seems obvious, but...
Yeah, soft, unprotected. Causes that involuntary guarding reaction. For males, the scrotum is key severe pain, causes the body to contract, ruins their stance, internal trauma possible, even on a near miss.
And finally, arms and legs, the extremities.
Less likely to be fatal hits there, but damaging joints, elbows, knees can immobilize a limb, takes away their ability to attack or move effectively.
A very clinical breakdown of vulnerabilities. Now, related to that, pressure points.
Yeah.
These are for control, right?
Primarily, yes. Nerves you can press or strike for pain compliance in non-lethal situations. Or you can use them just to soften someone up, distract them, create an opening for another technique, lethal or not.
Can you give some examples from the manual?
Sure. The infraorbital nerve, right under the nose. Upward pressure with the finger for control. Mastoid, process that bony bit behind the ear. Press inward and upward, good for distraction or control. Jugular, notch the little dip at the base of the neck. A quick jab with a finger there, they say, can cause serious damage.
Wow.
Brachial plexus tie-in, front of the shoulder joint, good for strikes or pressure. Radial and ulnar nerves along the forearm hit or press those to weaken their grip or stability. Even the hand itself, that webbing between thumb and index finger pressure there, can make someone loosen their grip.
What about lower body pressure points?
Femoral nerves on the inner thigh, peroneal nerves on the outer thigh strikes there can make the leg buckle. And the feet, lots of points you can target with a boot toe or heel just to cause pain, disrupt balance, create an opening.
It's amazing how specific nerves can be targeted like that. Okay, shifting to movement. The basic warrior stance. What does that look like?
It's the foundation. Feet shoulder width apart, weight balanced, knees slightly bent, gives you stability but also mobility. Hands up and ready, usually one forward, one back, kind of guarding but ready to strike or defend.
And from that stance, how do you move? Angles of approach and movement.
Key concept.
Yeah.
You need to be able to move 360 degrees around your opponent. It's about getting a tactical advantage, finding openings, using different techniques. Movement also adds power to strikes.
Don't just stand there.
Right. And crucially, avoid being directly in front of them. That's where they're strongest, moving forward. The manual really emphasizes using 45-degree angles to attack and to get out of the way of their attacks. It even details the footwork to move on those angles and get right back to that solid warrior stance.
Constant repositioning for advantage. Okay, next up. Balance and off-balancing. Absolutely vital, I'd imagine.
Fundamental. Balance for the Marine means maintaining that strong base we talked about. Low center of gravity, feet wide. Stay on the balls of your feet for quick moves. And critically, stay off the ground if you can help it.
And off-balancing is doing that to the other guy.
Exactly. Disrupting their base, using their own force, their momentum against them. Requires less effort from you, especially good against someone bigger or stronger.
How do you do it? What are the ways?
The manual outlines 8 directions you can push or pull someone off balance. Forward, back, left, right, and the 4 diagonals forward, left, rear left. All from your perspective. And you can use pushes, pulls, bumps with hands, arms, shoulders, hips, legs. It's about leverage and disrupting their center of gravity.
Manipulating their base.
Yeah.
But what if you end up going down? That's where falls come in, right? Break falls.
Precisely. Techniques to minimize injury when you fall. Forward break fall.
Yeah.
Tuck your chin, roll diagonally across your back shoulder, slap the ground hard with your hand and forearm to dissipate the impact. Back fall, cross hands on chest, tuck chin, fall straight back, slap out with both forearm shans as you land.
Slapping the ground helps absorb the shock.
Big time. And then there's the forward shoulder roll, more dynamic. Tuck chin, roll over a shoulder, but use the momentum, plant a foot, and push right back up to standing as fast as possible. Get back in the fight.
So even falling is a trained technique focused on recovery. This manual, it's way more detailed and, well, scientific than I expected. It's not just aggression, it's structured, anatomical.
Absolutely. It really highlights the intense preparation involved. Mastering basics, understanding leverage and anatomy, adapting constantly, that's what it drills down to. It's about using knowledge and technique, not just brute force.
So wrapping this up for our listeners, the learners out there seeking those core insights, what are the big takeaways from this deep dive? We hit the continuum of force, the tactical concepts, the incredibly detailed look at the body.
I think the most surprising thing is that level of granularity. Specific nerves for pressure points, the physics of off-balancing. It's almost like applied biomechanics for combat. It really drives home that success isn't just about being the strongest.
Yeah, knowledge, technique, anatomy, they're huge force multipliers.
Right. And for anyone looking for those aha moments, this is full of them. It gives you a real peek behind the curtain at the principles of control, conflict, adaptation, far beyond what you see in movies.
It definitely raises questions too, like how could these principles leverage, finding weaknesses, adapting, apply outside of combat, maybe in negotiations, or just navigating difficult social dynamics?
That's a great point. And think about the psychological side. What's it like to employ these techniques? What's it like to be on the receiving end? And how does training make these incredibly complex actions become almost instinctive under extreme stress?
Really makes you think. So here's a final thought to chew on. How might understanding these raw, fundamental elements of close combat, this detailed map of vulnerability and control, change how you perceive everyday interactions? You know, things involving personal space, power dynamics, even just reading body language.
It's definitely a different filter to view things through, a sobering one, perhaps.
Indeed. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.